Thank you. Ms. Bailey, do you believe that exclusionary zoning has a disparate impact on communities of color?
Yes,
Does the Fair Housing Act prohibit disparate impact discrimination?
yes,
Do you believe that exclusionary zoning, in as much as it produces a disparate impact, violates the Fair Housing Act?
yes,
Do you believe that HUD should enforce the Fair Housing Act against exclusionary zoning?
yes. And I need to clarify that a lot of the challenges at the local level are based on local laws and lot sizes. And if we were able to actually have localities be incentivized with the 85 million that HUD is using to try to incentivize the localities to change those laws, we could actually increase opportunities to address the fair and affordable housing crisis.
But even though zoning is a state and local issue, if it violates the Fair Housing Act, it becomes a federal constitutional concern, right?
Yes,
Okay. I think we all agree that there's an urgent need to expand housing supply. Expanded housing supply will require greater housing subsidy from the federal government and greater land use reform from state and local governments, but there's a third variable that affects housing supply: cost. If we can figure out how to cut the actual cost of housing development in half, then in theory we could cut rent, maintenance, mortgage payments in half. So a question for each of you: what is the most promising strategy that you have seen for fundamentally reducing the cost of housing development and housing construction in America? And we'll start with the Mortgage Bankers Association.
Yeah, so I think it's been interesting to see in Massachusetts, California, other parts of the country, the state level government really sort of leaning into local governments to try to increase density. And I think that's probably the most effective way this is going to be done at the state and local level, is just where it makes sense, increase density.
Increasing density is certainly important, but I also think that when we look at building more homes, we have to look at the other problems that are holding back building. Certainly, there are local laws that are restricting building and holding that back that go beyond density. And so looking at those laws, I think is quite important, like the number of shrubs and trees that need to be planted on a lot to have a single-family home go in, things like that that really could expand the number of homes.
fully enforcing our nation's civil rights laws. There is a provision, the Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing provision, under the Fair Housing Act. It requires two things: for localities and states that are receiving federal dollars for housing and community development to stop discriminating, and then to create inclusive communities going forward. We've yet to have full enforcement, quite frankly, because HUD has been under-resourced by the prior administration. And HUD, during this administration, had to do yeoman's work to really build up the staffing at the Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity to really approach this work with the rigor that's required. And if I may just speak to one issue about where we are in terms of building and costs. We didn't arrive at here by an accident. We actually underbuilt following the Great Recession. Builders actually built homes at the higher end of the marketplace, excluding building opportunities at the lower end of the marketplace. So we didn't just come here from an accident where we need to now focus on supply-side strategies. By failing to focus on demand-side strategies, we've exacerbated and actually grown the crisis. If the House had passed the Build Back Better Act, which is now the legislation that the ranking member mentioned, the Housing Crisis Response Act, if we had passed that legislation, millions of consumers would have got the housing relief that they need, and the overall market would be stronger.
I have a question about the relationship between median home prices and median household incomes. Median home prices have been median home prices have been rising astronomically, whereas median household incomes have been stagnating, and the gap between prices and incomes have been widening. Like, at what point does that gap become unsustainable? What is a healthy ratio of home price to household income? Yeah, Dr. Lutz, if you want to.
So I think when we're looking at this, we have to keep in mind that while first-time homebuyers are really struggling to enter into the market, homeowners have had incredible wealth gains. And so 32% of the market paying all cash, a quarter of repeat homebuyers who are primary residence buyers are paying all cash. They're not going to be wedded as much to what their income is versus the gain in home prices because of the ability to gain equity over time and make this all cash purchase. And right now, we are seeing a lot of boomers do this.
And many of these people have the ability to pay all cash because the Fed's policies to rescue the market during COVID did not land equally in every community. Wealthier borrowers were able to take advantage of refinances at historically low rates, whereas borrowers of color were not able to do so. So we saw the black homeownership rate actually, a black-white rate, homeownership wealth gap rather, grow by $20 trillion because of those inequitable policies.
Thank you.